Hi, Steve Bradshaw here. So, as part of the Power10 unboxing, we're going to take a look at the eBMC interface. So, this is with Power10s. We have a new kind of hypervisor. In the past, we had a flexible service processor, an FSP, and now with the eBMC. Both are accessed typically through a browser. This can be done via a HMC or directly by connecting to it and looking at the IP address. The nice thing about the eBMC that we're going to see is that it is a lot more sophisticated, responsive, informative than its FSP predecessor. So I can see why IBM moved this way. There are some differences in how you connect up your HMC to it, but that in another video. Let's just look at the positives. So this new eBMC, when you first access it with a browser, so you find the IP address of either of your ASMI ports on the back of your Power10, and you then get a login screen. That login screen tells you what it thinks the current date and time is for the particular system unit, the serial number of the system unit, and the model number. We're going to log in. The default admin user does still exist. General does not, and we'll get more on that later. When you first log in, firstly, you're given sort of an overview of how healthy your system is and what's going on. So we can see details about the model number, the serial number. The service login is normally disabled. That is normal behavior. It's only if you're sort of contacting IBM support and you need a temporary login that they're going to sort of enable those things for you. You can give it a actual label that you want to put in for yourself. So I've called this one Ritz Stark P10 4-core. So it just sort of explains what it is. The current firmware levels that we are running on this machine. And then information about the network and the power that's going on at the moment. Okay. And we can also see at the top here that power switched on, and there's a health indicator. More on that in a second. Okay. This host console you see here, don't get excited if you're an IBM person. That is not the IBM I one. That is the redirect of the serial connection out the back there. So our AIX brethren, I suspect, will be happier about that. But we're going to focus and take our first look at this interface. So over on the left-hand side here, we started in the overview. We're going to go into operations next. So this is very much of the what you want to do, whether you want it to. It is currently powered on my server. You can see the last time it was powered on. I could reboot it in an orderly fashion, or I could shut it down. I'm not going to do any of those things because I'm using it. You can set the power on policies as well, so as to what happens when power is restored to your server. Do you want it to automatically auto start? Do you want it to go into standby mode? So you have to then manually start the LPARs on it. Do you want it to restart if it's in recovery mode? So those you get to change from there. So that's quite nice. But that was the same in the old interface. Those console we talked about. Firmware levels. So you can see what's running there in the permanent and the temporary. So you get more details. Okay, you could still find that information before. If you need to reboot the BMC, this management interface itself, well, one can do. Okay, but we're not going to do that either. So let's go and take a look now about the resources. So if we go inside the resource management, bring that down, we can look at things like memory and how that's currently configured. Electrical power and performance. So by default, this is in maximum performance mode. If you wanted to say, I don't need all that performance, I'd like to save some electricity, we could move it back into power saving mode. And the little column there tells you the differences for each of those. Okay, fine. All right. And capacity on demand for those people who need to put COD things in there, you can see what currently is available, and then look at what VET codes are in the machine and what features that actually gives you. So in this particular one, I could run AIX if I wanted to, but I don't have the option for active memory expansion or active memory mirroring. I don't have CAPI, but I can use 100% of my IBMI. Whoop, whoop. IBMI, by the way. IBM, there's a space between IBM and I, just saying. Moving on, there's some other bits and pieces to do with the that I don't use. The bit that really is better is in the hardware status. So you can see what LEDs are currently on and off on your machine at the moment. And you can start to get a breakdown of where that health might be. So I can see what's going on with the system, the BMC itself, the memory slots, the fans. You might remember if you looked at the previous unboxing video to say, okay, well, there are 5 fans, so I can see that the health of all of them. Okay, if I needed to know what particular fan was, I could even turn the flashy light on that particular fan, so the person at the front knew which one I was talking about. Um, Power supply, so I can see that I have two power supplies and the power is there at the moment. That was harder to do in the old interface. You know, if you've got a problem with a power supply, you can actually see whether the power is there or not at the moment. So that's great. And if I needed to, you can get the flashing lights on the back, just as we did before. So someone can go around the back and you say, I'm interested in power supply 2. That one doesn't have the power supply on it. Even though it's got a big E2 label on the back of the server, that's now got flashing lights actually on the power light. So that's the one. Can you check the cables in correctly for me? And the same with the processors as we move forward. BMCs, fans, you can see so many of the components and see whether they're okay. So we want to see lots and lots and lots and lots of greens. That's all really good. Okay, so those are good. Now you will notice at the top here that the health doesn't have a green on it. So I'm going to click on health and it's going to take me straight to this log section. I could have gone to events logs down that way, but just takes you there quicker. So why is it not happy? It's unhappy because there was a power system failure. I pulled the cable out the back just to earlier on, and you can see more details. It was indeed the E2 power supply cable that got pulled out the back. We've checked that power supply cable is back in because we saw it now that it's healthy, but it's leaving this message on here, even though it's been resolved, just so that you know it happened. Now, once you are happy that you know it happened and you know why it happened, idiot pulled the power cable out the back, you can then check that over to resolved, okay? And you'll notice the server is now healthy again. When your policy of keeping things for long enough has gone away, you can click on the delete key and it will take that away. So, but for now, I'll just go back to the overview. Okay, I can see my server is healthy again because I have acknowledged what's going on there. So I thought that was quite a useful and nice thing. One of my favorite features about the eBMC. The next favorite thing by far is the responsiveness. You can see it's cleaner and easier to use, but the old ASMI was rather slow to move around, particularly when you're in things like the network settings. So you can see here, I'm going and taking a look at the network settings that are available to me. And when you were clicking on things, it always seemed to take quite a while to do whatever it was you wanted to do. So ETH0 is currently directly connected to my physical HMC, and so it's a DHCP client, whereas ETH1 is going out to my virtual HMC, so it has a static address in there. If I wanted to change the address, I could click on that, go inside, change the address to what I want it to be, and then click add. Yeah, I think that should be update, but yeah, it's small bit. Yeah, it's fairly obvious that's there. Talking of HMCs, as we move down the machine a bit further, we will let's go and take a look at security and access. If I look under security and access, HMC and users, it's lumped together who's logged into the eBMC as users. That's me. So that's me at the top there, logged in, and I could literally force myself off, kick myself out by clicking disconnect, as well as the two HMCs that are managing this system. So the HMCs that will manage this power system now show as peers, just like the users logging in to manage it. So this one is a physical one. You can see the model number there, 7063 CR2. So that's a nice Power 9 processor in that HMC itself. And it's logged in using the admin user. And there's the IP address that it's come from. And this one is a virtual HMC. I can see that because the model number starts with a V. And that's using a different user, HMC access. And it's going across the normal network. Those two users could indeed be the same, as could I, but I recommend this setting up a separate user for HMCs to do their accessing so you can immediately audit and control them rather than playing about and having to change the admin user. The admin user, ideally, you never really want to actually let loose in the outside world. You'll notice that we can have users outside of things like HMC and general and admin. So you can actually start to create your own users for management. This is the other big thing about the eBMCs is we're getting away from these default users with default passwords that can be backdoors to your machine. So if you go into user management, this machine is shipped with service and admin. Okay. And I have added Roten and HMC access. If you wanted to add a new user, right, so I'm going to create a new user called demo1, and I'm going to have this user with a password in there. So demo1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Okay. When the passwords don't match, it tells you. When you've got it right, it does. So that's the username. Those are its passwords. It's currently enabled. I could create it and have it disabled. So it gets enabled when required. Good for third-party service providers. And then you need to tell it what level of access it's got. Is it an admin or a read-only user? So in this case, I'm going to make demo one into a read-only user because should the thing exist or anyone log into it, I'm going to say it's disabled. And even if they did log in, it would only be a read-only user. So they will see now that when I go into here, user management, excuse me. Oh, hang on, underneath. So error creating demo one user. I think I didn't make the password complicated enough. Let's go back and just try that one more time. There's nothing like learning on the job, is there? So let's have demo one. Do tend to have need more complicated passwords now, longer and indeed mixed characters. So let's just pop something with a slightly more complicated password in there. Okay, still going to make it read only and disabled. Add the user. There it is. So demo one down there now exists. You see it successfully created it, and we can see the error from before. So that's brilliant. So that's there. And of course, if we wanted to modify that user to make demo one available to use, we can now enable it. So demo one is now available to use. Now we could even promote it and make it into an administrator. Or indeed, we could get rid of it because it shouldn't be there in the first place. So user management, much, much better. These little cookies over here about the things that it's done. If you want to integrate it with LDAP, there's your details for your LDAP servers. I'm not going to do that. You can also start to actually add new certificates if you want to bring the certificates in line with the rest of your company. If you've got standard company certificates, or if you buy external HTTP certificates, you can use those. Okay, you can then start to play with the policies, okay, about what is allowed and what is not allowed within the organization. If you don't know what you're doing, stay out of here, okay? So going back, what have we learned? It is a much more rich interface. It's much more responsive. It's easier to secure. So it is different, but I think it's definitely a step in the right direction. So thank you, IBM, for your eBMCs. You'll be seeing these on your Power10s and all subsequent power servers, we believe. You'll even see these eBMCs on the Power9 HMCs, the CR2 I mentioned earlier on. Similar, but subtly different when you actually log into those. If you'd like to know more about those, let me know and I'll do a different session on that. Hope that was useful. Best wishes, TTFN.